and welcome to the 36th Assembly District Candidates Forum, brought to you by SCV TV, KHTS AM 1220, the Signal newspaper, and COC Cougar News. I'm Leon Warden, and there's an election coming up on June 3rd for the 36th Assembly District. Now, most of the Santa Clarita Valley is in the 38th District, but the 36th District, which is mostly in the Antelope Valley, reaches down into Agua Dulce, takes in part of Acton, parts of Saugus, Canyon Country, out to Castaic. And so that's why we're here today at SCV TV. We've got 4 candidates with us in the studio, and they are J.D. Kennedy, Tom Lackey, Suzette Martinez, and Steve Fox. And the questions today are going to be coming from a panel of journalists from the Santa Clarita Valley, starting with Perry Smith from KHTS, Haley Cook from COC Cougar News, Luke Money from the Signal newspaper. We're going to open today with 90-second opening statements from each of the candidates. And in a predetermined random order, we're starting with the current Assemblyman, Steve Fox.
Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Fox. I'm your Assemblyman. I ran on a platform of improving the education for our children and improving the economics of our state. For the education, I voted for a $700 million budget trailer bill that lowered the amount of students in a classroom K through 3rd. I voted for $300 million to improve the education in our colleges. A lot of our community colleges, we have students, we have buildings, we don't have enough teachers. So we put in there, at least half the money had to go for instruction. As far as the economy, we put in $2.5 billion in a rainy day fund so that if this problem ever happened again, the money would be there. We also balanced the budget. In addition, I helped to pass and push through the enterprise zone. In the different enterprise zones, this created a place where employers can now hire somebody and get a tax credit for hiring individuals. In addition, my father was a World War II vet. I asked to be on the Veterans Committee. I have sponsored and co-authored a $600 million bond, Proposition 41, that will be on this ballot. They'll create additional homes for veterans and funds for transitional homes and jobs in the education department. In addition, I've sponsored a TAP program, Transition Assistance for Veterans, and this will basically give them a resource book and classes to show what's available for them in California, so we can help them transition from the military to civilian life. That's just the beginning.
What do you think can be done in Sacramento to address the concerns about our water supply?
I served on a conservation district for 5 years. This past year, I've been working on the bond. We have a water bond that's approximately $6 billion. There are a number of us who have lobbied and got $3 billion of it to be above ground water in the bond that we've requested. The governor's released $687 million towards emergency aid for farmers and individuals. I put in a request for $63 million for our district right here in shovel-ready projects. I like the jobs that were created here, not in Sacramento. In addition, I don't agree with the governor's current plan where he wants to put 2 pipes that bring the water down here. The problem is that the water's not up there, there's nothing to bring us here. What we really need is more above ground reservoirs, and there's a number of us that have been pushing for that, and I think we'll be successful, as we've been successful getting them in the bond.
Hi. Redevelopment zones have played a big role in the development of Santa Clarita. With the elimination of those, how are you going to compensate for local growth?
It was my bill that I helped push through, and I got both Democratic and Republican support to allow our area to be a corridor to be able to build drones. We projected that it would bring $89 billion in a 10-year period into our district. The concept here is to create jobs, create the area, and they will come. As far as the redevelopment, the governor took back a lot of the redevelopment money. Palmdale had requested 3 times for some of their money back. I leaned in on it and got both the Assembly and the Senate to push it, and I was able to get the governor to reverse $2.7 million back to Palmdale, and they were able to build 1,000 low-cost homes. I was also one of the key votes in getting the enterprise zone passed, and then when it went over to the Senate and it looked like some of them were being cut out, my chief of staff picked me up from a dental appointment, and I literally stayed there till 11:30 at night, and I basically lobbied until the party put back the enterprise zone back in Palmdale and Lancaster. I'm doing whatever it takes to create jobs right here.
If elected to the State Assembly, what are you going to do to stem the flow of manufacturing, aerospace, and film industry jobs from California?
We haven't developed a movie or created a movie in California in years. That's wrong. This is supposed to be the home of movies in Hollywood. So Raul Bocanegra, the assemblyman, has authored a bill which I've co-authored, which will create a tax incentive for a period of years so businesses can plan for the movie industry. Let's bring jobs here. For every dollar we invest in the business, we're going to get $2 back. In addition, for developing the governor's, a third component of the enterprise zone allows him to create his own quasi-tax incentive and go to other states and say, apply here, we're going to give you a tax credit, become part of our business. I've also talked to his GoBiz department, and I've said, we have companies already in our district, Northrop Grumman, Boeing. Why don't we offer tax incentives to other components of their business that are in another state and bring it here? Let's take business from Texas. Let's bring the business here. Let's keep the money here. Let's keep everything local. Let's create jobs right here.
AB 109 has been roundly criticized by law enforcement officials, but prison overcrowding is a significant issue in the state. What can be done to address the problems without releasing more criminals from jails?
I don't think they should release any prisoners. There's a friend of mine that came up with the reform first concept where you take a low-grade criminal who's been convicted and then you say, if you can work off your felony by working for a living and paying taxes like the rest of us. Then after a year, if he's successful, we dismiss the felony. As an attorney, I've done that twice in kind of makeshift ways with judges. I don't agree with AB 109 because it doesn't look at your last crime to make a decision. I mean, it looks at your last crime instead of the whole picture before it lets you out. And I think it needs to look at the whole picture as far as that. As far as the overcrowding, I think the Supreme Court's wrong in what it's doing and saying it's cruel and unusual punishment to keep them in. I think it's cruel and unusual punishment to allow them out on us. I've helped push through turning one of the small private prisons in California City into a regular prison, and they're going to house 2,300 prisoners. So I've been looking to create additional space for them and solutions where the very violent, and I have a bill right now to stop sexual predators. I'm working with the district attorney's office, where instead of dumping them in our area, which they tend to do, this will allow the DA to be put on notice and argue in front of a court as to where they're going to go.
Thank you.
California has one of the highest minimum wages in the country. Why do you think this is good for our state, or do you think it's something that should change?
You can't support a family on minimum wage. On the other hand, I abstained on it because, frankly, I've run a small business all my life. My father was a small businessman. And I also know that when you up the minimum wage, you're also upping the workman's comp and all the other expenses for a small business. I always paid my employees more because they did more. The real answer is making the pie bigger, generating more business in California. Then you can, if your employee's doing a good job, you'll pay him more. So the answer really is we have to keep the money local and we have to stimulate business.
Some have criticized the California Environmental Quality Act, or SEQA, as an obstacle to growth and development in the state, while others see it as a vital safeguard for our environment. What are your views on this piece of legislation?
SEQA allows a lot of time to create lawsuits because you have an endangered species. It stops business. That's wrong. What I think is if you have an endangered species, you just simply pick it up, move it, and you go forward with business. If there's something wrong, you can put a small liquidated liability damage clause in there for say $10,000 or whatever amount you're going to put in, but allow the building to continue so the jobs continue. SEQA definitely needs to be reformed, if not modified.
The Proposition 30 tax increases voters approved were temporary. If our revenue levels decline again, would you be in favor of continuing them to keep our state solvent?
I supported Proposition 30. I'm a past school teacher, and I understood the need to give our children a chance for their future. The money will probably run out in 5 or 6 years is the way it's basically set up. But the truth is we have to find more long-term solutions, whether we take a look at the oil severance tax or whether we find, and my favorite obviously is to stimulate business so we have more money and we've stimulated more individuals' incomes. We do need to find a long-term solution and we'll be back in the same old problem we've been in before.
What party do you belong to and why?
It's a good question. I was a Republican for 30 years. I felt the Republican Party left me. I noticed that the Assembly is made up of now 55 Democrats out of 80 members. It's not going to change anytime soon. And right now, by being a Democrat and having conservative values, I'm getting things passed that I couldn't have gotten if I was still a Republican. There's a lot of good Republicans. I was one of them. I still push all the values. I was able to get the Republicans and Democrats together and stop a bad Second Amendment rights bill that would have hurt gun owners. I was able to get both parties to back me on getting this to be a drone corridor so we could possibly bring business here. I was able to get both parties, and I had Scott Wilkes stand up and speak for it, to looking here to building a 4-year college here so our children can stay local. The question is, I present my conservative values, and I'm here because there's a 2/3 been back of me, and I can get the job done, and I'm going to continue to get the job done.
Thank you. Nicely done, everybody. And now we're going to go right into closing statements. Well, sometimes it works out that way. Steve Fox, you had the first word today, and you get the last word, too.
The public has the last word. I've been endorsed by the LA Sheriff's Deputies and the California Teachers Association. You find that I've got endorsements from both sides of the coin. Because I protected the Second Amendment rights every single time, and because I've helped to get our children more education, less students in the classroom, a greater number of classes available in our colleges. I've tried it every step of the way, and working with others, we've been successful. We balanced the budget, we brought in a rainy day fund so this problem will never happen again. We've given every opportunity we can, and I have a lot more I'd like to get done. But to do so, I'd like to ask for your vote. I'd like to ask for your help. Together, we're going to get it done. Thank you.
Well, thank you for watching the 36th Assembly District Candidates Forum, brought to you by SCV TV, The Signal, KHTS, and COC Cougar News. I'd like to thank the candidates for joining us today. J.D. Kennedy, Tom Lackey, Suzette Martinez, and Steve Fox. And our panel of journalists over there on the left facing is Perry Smith from KHTS, Haley Cook from Cougar News, and Luke Money from the Signal newspaper. I'm Leon Warden, reminding you to vote on June 3rd.